Well, I'm really excited, man. It's very rare that we get to host a podcast founder.
Live podcast. This is a live podcast recording, guys.
All right, let's go.
We're gonna be featured, all right, in their next
It's gonna be a cutout
right?
of our.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, make sure the recording is tight. Yeah, it's gonna be on the podcast.
Well, today we're gonna hear from them. They have tons of wisdom. They've been married for 13 years. All right. So they have 3 beautiful kids: Josiah, Sarah, and Chloe. All right. Who is somewhere around out there. Right. But we're gonna have a great time hearing from them. All right. And so the first thing that we want to do, all right, is to hear a little bit about their love story.
Yeah.
Ooh. You guys excited for that? Yeah. All right. Everybody say ooh. All right, so the first thing I'm going to just kick us off, right, with asking is, what was your first impression of each other? All right, what's your first impression?
Okay, I'll go first. I saw him, I think, at a youth service. But, okay, so between Chris and I, we are 4 years apart, okay? So he's 4 years older, I'm not 4 years older, just to clarify. And when I saw him at that time, I mean, it was a little bit inappropriate to be interested in any other way except give my admiration. Because I was like, okay, this guy, he was playing bass, he was playing bass. Sometimes he would, I think, MC games, right? Yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. I knew at that time he was from RJ too. So I was like, wow, so clever also. So I said, okay, I think this guy not bad. I think not bad. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, my first impression, I mean, I had known Gladys. She was actually really good friends with my sister. And so even as a teenager, she would do sleepovers at my house. Uh-oh. And I was like, why is it this girl keeps looking at me? Okay, I'm just kidding, all right? But, you know, Gladys was she was amazing. She was a leader in the church. She was beautiful. Would you agree? Yes. Yeah, right? You know, real charismatic. And then, you know, good friends with my sis, so I got to know her that way. But actually, the first time I started thinking about getting into a relationship with her, I had actually been in another relationship. Everyone say, uh-oh. But that didn't work out so well, you know, and that ended. But it was maybe like a year after that. I was already kind of in my 20s, and one night I was with some friends, and they're like, hey, so what are you thinking of? You know, like, are you thinking about getting in a relationship again? Like, who would it be? You know, and I don't know. I think out of the depths of my spirit, I just said, Gladys.
Whoa.
You know, pretty cool. And then that kind of just started, yeah, the whole process.
Wow. Nice. Wow. Yeah. What about Gladys, though? Like, when did you start to admire him in a different way?
Yeah, consider him as
Consider
like a
him.
potential.
When she was
Wow.
in VK.
So
That is very inappropriate.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
Censor
Yeah,
that.
No, of course not. Well, I mean, you know, so he went overseas to study for a bit. Then I went on a missions team. So this was my very first missions experience in 2009. I was only 20 at that time. Where are all my 20-year-olds at? All right, it's time for you guys to go for missions. Caleb, I know you're going. Well, you know why? Because missions gives you a spouse.
Wow.
It's biblical. And, you know, right after that, I came back from that. Okay, it's not, okay? Just in case anyone was wondering.
Correct, like,
yeah. But right after that, I remember one of my pastors came to me and then he said, hey, I want you to start praying for your spouse. And I said, pray for my spouse. I'm 20, just turned 21. What do you mean, like, pray for your spouse? At this age, nobody's praying for their spouses. They're just having fun, right? And so I said, okay, I'll start praying. You know, I don't know who this person is. You know, as many people would say, like, you look around and you think, that one cannot, this one also cannot, right? How is it possible I'll get married in this church, you know? And that's how I felt, right? But I said, okay, I'll just keep praying. And I felt like God spoke to me that, you know, I'll meet somebody by the end of that year. So I said, okay, I mean, I'll be 22 by the end of that year. That's pretty young, but okay, I'll just believe it. And then he came along. I need to tell you, shall I tell that story? Yeah? Okay, so basically, at that time, Twitter was a big thing. Is it Twitter a thing anymore? No, now it's X, right? Yeah. So that was all the social media we had, okay? And at that time, I think I was into running or something like that. And then Chris like DM'd me. And he said something super random. He slid into the DMs.
Slid right in.
And he said, hey, like, the southern ridges are really nice for running. And you know what? I'm an Eastie, okay? So I used to be an Eastie. I lived in Pasir Ris. So the only...
Pasir Ris guys say.
All right. Some Pasir Ris people over there. And the only parks I knew were like Pasir Ris Park, you know, Tampines Park Connected, East Coast Park,
Tampines Park.
Yeah, Southern Ridges didn't sound like it was in Singapore. So I texted him back, I DM'd him and I said, hey, your Twitter got virus. Honestly, I was like, did you just send like some, I don't know, AI generated thing at that time maybe? But I was very suspicious of his intention. But then I think it was at that point that I realized I think there is a little bit more than him just telling me where to run. And then I think slowly at that point, he was very intentional. He'll text me, right? Not all the time, but just occasionally. And then I thought, hey, I think this is something I do want to pursue.
Yeah. You know, I just want to pick up a little bit of what you shared about how you felt God speak to you that by the end of this year, right? Like by the end of that year that you would, you know, get attached. And I think like something that sometimes we wonder, or like, you know, different of us would wonder is actually how do you know that that's God and not just you, right? How do you know that's of like the Spirit? Yeah, could you share a little bit of that?
Yeah. Do you want to say something? Okay, no. Well, I think hearing the voice of God comes with practice.
Yeah.
You know, and I think before I heard God speak to me then, that was not the first time He had spoken to me. All my life, right, I have been speaking to God, I've been listening to the voice of God, I've been cultivating that part of my life. Yeah. And so when the word came, I knew, like in my heart, in my spirit, like, okay, that is God. Like it was clear. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't praying about it, like in particular. But, you know, I just felt like, okay, I've already kind of attuned my ears to the voice of God by that time. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, like I mentioned, I was in a previous relationship, you know, and it ended. And clearly, I wasn't trying to like get back into it. I had learned some things, like things that I didn't do, like, you know, well or didn't do right. But I gave it some time. I was in a season of transition. Actually, I was overseas. I came back. And then I think a few things that were key for me before I decided to get in like a relationship again was, one, I wanted to make sure like I was like fully plugged in like to the church. Yeah. You know, I wasn't in a season of transition. Because sometimes you're like that, oh my gosh, change. And then I feel like I need an anchor, so let me get in a relationship. I was like, no, I think I need to lay low for a bit, kind of get my life back into a season, like back in Singapore. I was plugged in, you know, in leadership. I had leaders who under me. And so I was like always just transparent. Even with friends who I trusted and I shared it with them. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about this. You know, and they were friends in the church. They were good friends who would support me and encourage me. So I was just open and honest about it. And, you know, and then I stepped in and so I started to get to know her. But I remember we were just, you know, talking here and there. My leaders knew about it. But even before deciding to like properly, like, you know, like start dating with her, I remember we invested so much just in like friendship and relationship. Like way before like there was any like romantic thing, we were just friends. And not friends alone, friends in the context of other friends. You know, and because I lived in the south, I was in, you know, the south region at the time. Come on, south region. All right. And then she was in the east, and she was still in youth at the time. I had just like come out of youth. Actually, we had very little opportunities to like be together in the same context. So I actually fought to be like, hey, I think we need to find some mutual friends. I think we need to be in a situation where we're not alone. You know, and so I would show up at some gatherings and people were like, why is this guy here? You know, but you know...
We should tell the story of Karis, actually.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Yeah, you know, but I was like, hey, I want to make sure we are in an environment where it's not just us alone. You know, I almost had to fight to be like, almost get myself invited like into some kind of gathering like of friends. And people kind of knew, yeah, Chris is here. Like, but you know, I was just like, look, I'm just going to invest in this friendship piece way before we jump into the relationship piece. Because I wanted to make sure that, you know, if we got into a relationship, it wasn't just about us. It was always in the context of like the bigger church family and a bigger group of friends.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think I want to pick up on that, like, you know, talk about friendship, right? How many of you have friends of the opposite gender? Right? Don't be ashamed, just lift up your hands, all right? Oh, Nathan, you don't have any friends that are girls? Oh, okay, good. Just checking.
Every
just
week
checking.
you're picking on him.
He's just right in front of me, man. I love you, bro. And I think like that friendship is really important because actually you get to know the person a little bit better, right? And I think in the context of that, the Bible talks about don't be unequally yoked, right? So for you guys, like with that context of friendship, when you observe in each other, how do you know that, like, okay, Gladys, or for Chris, like, how do you know this person, objectively, when I look at him, I know that this relationship will be equally yoked, Like, what are things that you look out for? What are things that you're kind of like trying to figure out in that friendship?
Equally yoked. Okay, we always throw this thing around, don't be unequally yoked. And I think most people are like, what does it even mean? Actually, a yoke, you don't see a yoke, not egg yolk. It's not like, oh, you're a small yolk, big yolk. Mooncake festival coming, 2 yolks, like 1 yolk. It's not that, it's a yoke. A yoke is literally like, actually in the farming days, it is this device that would connect 2 ox. They would like use oxen to basically like till the ground. That's what you would do, because you have to till the ground before you can plant something in, right? All of you are like, I never farmed before, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's fine, okay, just take my word for it. Okay, so, but 1 ox alone, like you can only do so much. So what they would do is they would yoke 2 oxen together. Right? And then they would like push forward together. So you get double the energy, you get double the effort, and basically the soil like, works a little bit better. And that's really the picture of what it means to be equally yoked. Right? If you have 2 ox, 1 big, hard-working, effective one, and 1 kind of lazy ox that doesn't want to do anything with that first ox, actually, it's useless. Like, it's unequally yoked, right? The first ox is like, come on, dude, like, do your job, like, let's do this together. Or if you had 2, but they were going in different directions. One ox is like, hey, let's go this way. Another ox is like the other way. They're actually bound by a yoke. Actually, they're not going to go anywhere. And actually, that's the picture of relationship. Right? I mean, we're not all cows or oxen, right? But we are joined together and moving like forward in the same kind of way. And it's not just, I think sometimes we think about this as, just don't date a non-Christian. Right? Usually we think of it that way. Don't be unequally yoked means don't just date a non-Christian. But I think it's way more than that. I think that's just like baseline. Like that's baseline. But even if it was like 2 people who are Christians, actually you can be unequally yoked in terms of like, man, I'm going this way for the Lord. Someone else is like, well, I'm not so sure. I believe in Jesus, but I'm not sure I can run like with you. And I think we should aspire and push and be like, God, I really want to like be with someone, when it's time for a relationship. Someone who has the same vision for their life as you've given me. Someone who's going to run like so hard for you, Lord, like as I want to. Someone who like, man, is going to help me and support me in my call, and my gifting as I chase the Lord. And so I think those are a few of the things that I would look at. Do you have any?
Yeah, we play pickleball and then sometimes we are partners, right? But, when you're unequally yoked, what it looks like is one is very, very strong. So he's hitting all the balls. Every time it comes, he's hitting. Even though I'm standing there, he comes in front of me and then he's hitting the ball. And then the other person, aka me, standing there holding the pickleball racket but just looking good and like never hitting a ball. I'm never contributing to the game. But you know what? If I want to win, if we want to win, then we both need to put in the same effort. We need to both actually contribute in that. And I'm thinking even about not just even in relationship, right? I'm thinking how sometimes we try and go so close to the line or what is considered okay or not okay. And we think as long as we don't cross the line. So for example, as long as I don't date a non-Christian, good enough already, As long as it's Christian, boy, can look kind of good. Okay,
to emphasize the gender also, right?
And then that's good enough. But actually what you're fighting for when, and the Bible talks about this being unequally yoked, and I think that's something that we all should strive for and say, God, that's what I want, that's a picture of what I want, is that both of us are carrying equal, almost, I wouldn't say weight, but like we are equally kind of contributing, we're equally running at the same pace, we're running at the same capacity, and that is really crucial, I think, in understanding this verse, because I think many times people take that out of context, and say, yeah, just as long as non-Christian, good enough.
And I would add like, that picture of, the oxen and being yoked together. Actually, there's a mission. There's a mission that they're after. They're not just yoked just so that they can have a great time together and hang out. Actually, there's a job to be done. Hey, we're going to till this ground. We're going to make it fruitful, right? Seeds are going to be planted in there. There's going to be a harvest that comes out of that, fruitfulness that comes out of that. And so let's join together so that we can do this mission together.
Yeah.
Let's be joined together so that this work can be done more effectively, so that there is fruit that comes out of this relationship.
Yeah, no, that's so great. I think like it's good. I mean, it's kind of like even your life, right? Both of you like moving from even from the south to the west to be the regional pastors there. I think like you are very clear on the mission, right? You are two cows moving the same. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. All right, but I think like even with what we talk about, like seeing it and being like observing what it means to be equally yoked. I think in today's culture, everybody is kind of looking out for red flags, right? You all know some red flags, right? Right? Why don't you, at the count of 3, I want you to shout some red flags right now.
Shout your biggest red flag.
Shout your biggest
What
red
is the
flag.
number one
right?
thing you cannot take?
1, 2, 3.
Smelly breath!
What? Smelly? Okay, B.O. Someone say B.O.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Yeah, it is a red flag.
Come on.
And I think in the culture that we have today, you know, we kind of like, we almost treat it like in relationships, we're waiting for the red flag to come out. Like it's we're scared to step on a landmine, or we're scared that, you know, that things are gonna blow up, like a ticking time bomb. But I think like actually we kind of want to, like what you guys say, you know, being friends first. Actually, you're looking out for what we call like green flags, right? You're looking out for certain things. And so maybe just to hear from you guys, you know, actually, what are some green flags? You know, how do you decide what are green flags that you want to see in a potential spouse, someone that you want to get married to? Yeah.
Well, I might have shared this story here before, but I remember even when I was younger that my pastor at that time, which was Pastor Carissa Seward, she challenged me. She said, hey, like, I don't want you to compromise on your standards, and so here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down all the things that you want in a spouse. So I said, wow, that I don't like the idea of like putting things down, because then it feels like I have to follow these things in order for it to come true. But she was teaching me how to raise a standard. She was teaching me how to, maintain a standard, like almost to value myself to and what God has called me to. And so I sat down and I actually listed down all 31 things. And today I actually it's 31 things. And today I actually went to the storeroom to look for them. And I would say like the main 3 things that I put down was not one that he's a boy, but one that, I wrote down that he must be spirit-filled. That was one. The second thing was that he would love God more than he would love me. And then the third thing I wrote down was, and this was specific to my call, I felt like he needs to be missions-minded. So these are my 3, like I wrote it on top because these were like the non-negotiables, you know. And how did I come up with that? Really, I think it was an outflow of my own life. Like I just decided, God, if I'm gonna, be with somebody, I hope he never pulls me down. I hope not like the oxen, right? That one is like holding me back. I want to do everything possible for you, God. And I pray that the spouse that I find would either be where I'm at or even further down, from where I'm at, so that he can support me, he can challenge me, he can take me further than where I already am. He can lead me, really. And so I think those were probably my top 3 things. Yeah, I can share the rest later, but
The other 28 of them.
yes.
Yeah, I remember a funny story. So I think this was like before we started dating, and there was this older guy in the region, right? I won't name him at the time. And all the uncles and aunties, right, are always very well-meaning, right? They're the age and they're like, oh, I've got this great idea. Like, this person should be your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. Don't believe most of it, okay? But anyway, this guy took me out to lunch, and he's like, hey, Chris, you're at this age, and I want to like introduce you to a girl. I was like, okay, very sus, okay? And he's like, this girl is amazing. I think you'll really like her. And I was like, why? He's like, because she's dressed like your mother. Okay, it's not Gladys, okay? And I was like, bro, I already have a mother. Like, I don't need another mother. Oh my goodness. And it's funny how he thought like, oh, that's kind of the characteristic, like, of someone that you're looking for. But, I think talking about green flags, what kind of things you look out for, I think it actually starts with, do you know who you are and what God's calling you to? I think too often we start thinking about what kind of person we want, right? You start thinking about like the qualities that they have. Oh, this is my dream guy, or that is my dream girl. Actually, what's more important is, God, who am I and what are you leading me to? And I'm so confident in that, I'm so clear about that, that actually that's how I set a standard. Because anyone that I'm going to share my life with, God, better help me in this thing that you're leading me in. Whoever I choose to do shouldn't just be very needy. You know, I'm not here to serve them. I'm here to serve the Lord first. And then God brings two people together who can run like together. You know, and so the first question I will ask is, God, who am I? What are you leading me to? And if you're a guy, you know, and you're looking for someone, hey, is this girl like going to come and help me in my call? Come and support me and run with me. If you're a girl and you're looking for a guy, ask, does that guy know where he's going? Or is he directionless? Or is he clueless? Because I'm telling you, it's going to be frustrating if you get into a relationship and there's a guy who's just like, well, anything goes. Oh yeah, whatever, you decide lah. You know, you'll be so frustrated. You know, so I think that actually comes first. You know, and then from there you can figure out who is it that I'm looking for. Is it someone who, you know, like she said, missions, you know, led by the Spirit and so on.
Well, you know, the other thing too, I think being in the church community is really powerful because we had so many great examples of people who had dated well, or marriages that we had looked up to. And I think like that was something that I always looked at, and I always thought this is what I want, you know, and that to me was a big green flag. I was like, that's what I want. That's the kind of thing I was looking at. I wasn't looking at like social media and like, you know, what kind of relationships are there out there. I wasn't looking at a show or a movie to decide like what kind of spouse I wanted. I had people in my life like that who lived that out, you know, and so, you know, I think being plugged into your community right now, like our church, you know, and seeing people who are like maybe one step ahead of us is really powerful and it's really important too. And saying, hey, God, I want that. Like, that's the green flag for me. I want that too.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. Now we're all wondering, who is the girl that was recommended to Chris?
Will forever remain a secret.
She's not here. She's not here.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think like you seeing the examples before you and like you kind of going like, oh, couple goals, right? Okay, that's kind of like what I want to have in my relationship as well. Yeah, that's so good. Do you have anything else you want to?
I mean, I think it really I love how actually what you have shared is also your example, you know, that you guys are also like an example to us, like how to date well, how to like believe God for the best, you know, because you didn't compromise your 31 like list. But I think like on that note, actually, you did mention like your top 3 were non-negotiables. But like, was there a difference between like preference and like a non-negotiable? Like, how do you know when it's a negotiable? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe let me just add one thing before I answer that question. So let me give you a picture of how it's played out in our lives. Setting those standards and deciding, we're not going to settle for anything less than this. So we got married, and you know, one of the big things we wanted to do was, hey, we're going to go for missions together. You know, and so we got married, and then a year later, we joined a church planning team, and we went for missions. And then we chose to have kids like after that. And it was easy. Like, these are big life decisions. Maybe you're not thinking about it now, but actually those are the kinds of things that you'll need to think about. Man, are we going to uproot from our jobs and then go for missions? When are we going to have kids? You know, but it was so easy to make those decisions because we already pre-decided. Missions is going to be like a big thing that we do. And so we got married. Like, I was mid-career. She was like, you know, just starting work. But no, we decided as a couple, even after we get married, like that is something that we're going to do. You know, now we're pastors, but, you know, I worked for 10 years, like, out in the world, in the secular world. And that, you know, in 2018, I felt God speak to me, hey, leave your job and come into full-time ministry. You know, I didn't have to worry about, man, is she going to be okay with it? Is she going to be, like, opposed to it? You know, I mean, obviously it was a big decision, but I remember when I told her, hey, I felt God speaking this to me. You know, Gladys was already like, actually, I feel like God had already prepared my heart. And so literally, like, I told her that same day we decided, okay, let's do it. Like, in one day we decided, hey, I'm going to quit, you know, and within that week, I told my boss and all that, and we made that shift. Like, but those things don't, you know, it wasn't in that moment that it happened. Actually, we had pre-decided, like, way back, hey, this is the kind of person I'm looking for. And so when it comes time to make those major decisions in life, you're not facing tension, you're not facing like a difference in values or like a difference in priority. And so, you know, it's not just a now decision. I think you're investing or making decisions now that are going to have a big impact 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. When you have kids, you know, what you do with your life. So I think those are, I just wanted to add that. What's the difference between what you said, like just what's a preference and what's non-negotiable? I think, I would say like very often preference is kind of getting what you naturally want, like now, and the things that you have a conviction about are actually choosing the things that are going to be important, like in the future. So maybe I explain it this way. I think the things that are going to be important to you in 10 years' time are very different than the things that are important to you now. It's true. Right? Yeah. If one thing that's important to you is good looks, can I tell you the person that you date or marry is going to look super different like 20 years from now than they are now? That is true. Okay, so I mean, it's fine. I want someone who's like not like super ugly. That's okay. Pray, ask the Lord. He'll be good to you. All right?
Anybody want super ugly?
I believe most of you here are not super ugly. Amen.
Amen. All right. You know, but it's fine. You know, I think it's good. I think it's good that, hey, God, like this would be great. Yeah. Right? But you know, those things like fade, those things change.
Yeah. Maybe I can add something too. Like, I remember when I was in maybe JC and I was thinking about, okay, who I want to marry. And at that time, right, I was a huge, major, like, Manchester United fan. Small fact, okay?
Wow, never knew that.
My condolences to everyone who's clapping right now.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to tell you the end of the story. I'm not a fan anymore. But, like, at that time, I was a huge fan.
Okay, this is how much of a fan she was. She had, I don't know if you guys even know, because it was so long ago, she had, like, posters of Rio Ferdinand. You guys know Rio Ferdinand?
Anyone knows that?
Yeah, she had pictures of these menu players, like, on her wall, okay? I was like, okay.
No, I was convinced. I was like, God, I think I'm either going to marry a football player, or if I become Alex Ferguson's, like, I don't know, like, he just discovered he had a daughter, like, from nowhere. It was me, you know? It would be me, God. It would be me, God. And so, in my head, right, I thought, you know what? The only way I'm going to marry this person is if he also will stay up and watch football matches with me. Wow. And he also, you know, so I thought that's going to be it. You know, that 100%, like, there's no, I was so passionate about it. I was so clear about it. I was like, this is it. But here's the difference. That was an interest, right? That was a hobby, right, that I had. And I tied the spouse that I wanted to an interest, which exactly what you're saying, might change, like, over time. Yeah. And I think sometimes we tend to hang on to some of these things because they're really just preferences. There's something that you prefer, it's an opinion that you might have, and you think like this is make or break. Yeah. You know, this is what's going to matter. But just like what we've shared just now, actually what really matters should be some of these things, right? Those non-negotiables that they won't change because like now I'm not a fan, or now I like something else. Now I, you know, prefer like, I don't know, Labu dolls to, you know, something. I mean, whatever it is that you are interested, excited about, great, but can we differentiate? Can we see the difference between, hey, that's just a preference versus like, this is a non-negotiable for me? Yeah.
No, that's so good. I think like preferences sometimes like, it's things that, it's like, sometimes we have a wish list, you know, supermodel must be like, you know, this
175 cm.
Really?
No, I didn't say that's my preference. I'm just saying that some people have their preference.
It's getting personal on this stage.
Man,
all right.
Are
those platforms that you're wearing?
There's extra 5 cms there. But I think like preferences, you know, are important, and you should still have some preferences, but the non-negotiables kind of direct that, kind of like line it up on how you choose your spouse. And I think like, this is off script, right? But I'm just thinking also like, okay, you've got all this down, right? Then once you have all of it, what's the first thing that you do? You know like, okay, this is my non-negotiable list. Now you're like, okay, I think I'm in the right place. I'm mature enough already, right? I think like I can get into a relationship. What's the first thing you would do? You know, what's the first thing you would do? Yeah.
The first thing you don't do is tell the person.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so what I did was, I spoke to my pastor at the time, spoke to my leader, and he told me something I really didn't want to hear. He was like, I want you to wait 3 months. And I was like, come on, are you serious? Like,
Like, I'm such a great worship leader already.
Yeah, already.
I have so many disciples.
And this was after I'd already gone through that friendship phase, like
Right.
invested in all of that. Like, I felt like I was already very patient, and then I just wanted to get into the relationship. And he's like, wait 3 months.
Wow.
And I was like, why? No, just wait. And so I was like, okay, and so I stuck to that, and I held back. And at the end of 3 months, he was like, so how, you still feel the same? I was like, yeah, I still feel the same. It's clear. And he's like, okay, go ahead. And so I think that's one thing I would do, like always just be open to counsel.
Yeah.
I think from
Yeah.
people who, love you, who trust you, keep everything in the open. I think the worst thing with relationships is to keep something hidden.
Yeah.
Because you're afraid that maybe someone will say no.
Yeah.
Maybe you're afraid that someone will stand in the way of like what you want to do. And you just got to trust God, I think, with relationships, that actually He has the best for you.
Yeah.
God wants the best for you, not just in like ministry.
Yeah.
I want you to be a
Good.
great Connect group leader.
Yeah.
I want you to be a great evangelist. No, He wants you to have a great spouse.
Yes.
He wants you to have a great like dating
Yes.
relationship. It's great things. Like marriage is amazing.
Yeah.
Like dating
Yeah.
is super fun. Right? Gladys is like, I wish we were dating again. I was like, no, you lived in Pasir Ris and I lived in West Coast. Dating was like, painful. But God really wants the best for you. So like bring it out into the open. Your pastors want the best for you. Pastor Ian and Karis want the best for all of you.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that's one of the first things I would do.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like, maybe the first thing is let's post it on Instagram, let's like make it official. Let's like go and tell somebody. Let's like let the whole world know this is it. Like I hit the jackpot, I did it. I found the right person. But actually, that posture is not one of surrender, and that's not one of like saying, God, I trust you.
Yeah.
And I think again, just now you asked me about how do you hear the voice of God? How do you know it's God? Again, like living a surrendered life, that doesn't come like this, that came from, years and years of like cultivating. It's a discipline that you almost have over time. And I remember this too, like I had just come out of something else, and I wouldn't call it a relationship. We just talked a lot online. And then I was coming to a point where I thought, I think cannot already lah. Like I can't deal with the fact that I don't know what's going on. We're just like talking all the time, but nothing's happening. But in my heart, I felt that it was very hard to let go, because I thought, in my head, I think this is the best I'm gonna get.
Wow.
I don't think I can find anything else better than this really. But what God was dealing with me in my heart was not about, I cannot give another person. There's so many people in the world, right? God was dealing with my surrender. God was dealing with my heart.
Yes.
What are you willing to lay this down and trust me for something bigger, for something better that I have for you? And I remember it was one of the services just like this, and it was not an altar call about laying down a past relationship. It was really just a worship thing. And I think it's so important to be found in the house of God, always, because God speaks, right? I remember God kind of like giving me a peace and even just a trust to say, okay, God, I'm going to surrender this to you. I remember even telling God, God, if I never find a spouse who loves you as much as I do, or more than I do, then I don't want to get married.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And when I said that, it was very scary to me because I do want to get married. And I was like, I do want to be in a relationship, but I think what God was working in my heart was like, hey, are you surrendered enough?
Yeah.
Are you willing to, say, God, I trust you more than I'm going to hang on to like some of the plans or the things that I think are good for me.
Yep.
And I think that relationship was kind of the example of that. Like, because sometimes we can surrender a lot of things. We can surrender everything. Yeah, God, my school stuff, my ministry things. But for some of us here, sometimes the hardest thing to let go of is that relationship.
Yeah.
Because we feel like, God, but if I do, what will happen? Will I ever find somebody else? Will it, will things like, will I ever find a relationship even better than this? And you think like by holding on, you're going to hang on to something good. But God is saying, hey, let go, because there's something better that I have for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really thanks for like just sharing so openly also. I think the reality is that actually God is after our hearts, right? He's after our love for Him, our trust in Him. And in the end of the day, right, like the relationship can never become our God, right? The relationship can never be the thing that fulfills us, because only God can fulfill us no matter what. But I think the reality is sometimes it hurts, and it takes that trust and surrender to say, no, God, you come first. And I think also that means that actually there is no prescribed process. Sometimes we we say 3 months, wait 3 months, or we pull okay, it's gonna be 1 month or of silence or something like that. And we like to think in okay, if I just do this, then I can get into a relationship. But actually, it will be a different process of pruning that God wants every one of us to go through. For you, it might have been okay, surrender this and maybe lay some certain things down. For Chris, okay, wait 3 months. For me, maybe it's it was different, right? Maybe do something instead. And I think that's where actually being open to someone, to a leader, actually is so important, because we don't know what we need sometimes. We don't know what God wants to form in our hearts. But when we are open to someone, when we are willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm ready, I'm open, I'm willing, I'm teachable, actually God can form what needs to be formed in us. But it takes that heart of surrender. It takes that heart of trust. And I think that's so, so key,
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think we're going to wrap up this way. Just get the keys on. Right, make this a little bit more spiritual. But I think what we've talked about, and you guys covered it so well, right? We talk about the 4 rights, right? The right you, right? The right me, right? The right timing. We talk about, the right one, right? All the non-negotiables, the preferences that we have, that we see in someone's life and calling, and even measuring it up to my own life and calling. And now, we talk a little bit as well on the right way, right? Actually, seeking out a leader. There's no process, okay? There's no vfc.org/relationships. You put in a UCARE form and we'll match you with someone, right?
Although
Swipe left,
some
swipe
of them
right.
might actually wish.
I feel like some of you, okay, no, we're not doing that, okay? We're not doing that. Absolutely bad idea. But I wanted to end this way, actually, when you do it the way that God intends for it, people around you celebrate. I remember and I'll just share this because we haven't had the opportunity to share this, but and I'm glad that you guys are here, right, where I share this. When I spoke to Pastor Jeremy, got, everything, affirmation from him to yeah, go for it, right, go and talk to Caris. And then I remember planning it out. I said, okay, I told Pastor Jeremy, I'm going to meet her after service, all right, to talk to her, right? If all else fails, right, there's evening service and my soul can be redeemed, right? If she rejects me, we used to have evening service, right? So at least, I can, go for evening service, right? Get restored. So I remember I told her, we were YCGMs them together. And then I said, hey, we need to discuss some regional matters. Hey, it's a regional matter, okay? Very important regional matter. So we went into the conference room, all right? We sat down. I looked at her and said, hey, we've been good friends. The region's going fine. But I think we need to take things to the next level. Right.
This was literal words, okay? Next level, I'm like level 3? What are you talking about?
By the way, this was in the Rubicon conference room. The most romantic place in the
things
South.
you shouldn't do.
Romantic.
Yes. And she was like, take things to the next level. What do you mean? Like the region or our friendship or what? So I said okay, yes, our friendship. Will you be my girlfriend, right?
You said the G word.
I said the G word, yeah. Then so hear me out. And this is why we say so much about talking to your leaders. Okay, this is so important. I need to stress this for everybody. All right. So I say, hey, do you need time to pray about it? Right? Maybe you need 3 weeks. We can talk again in 3 weeks if you're deciding whether you want to be my girlfriend or not. She was like, yeah, no, I'm okay to be your girlfriend, right? So I was like, wow, yeah, great. Okay, so we're gonna meet again, right? It's like my brain just kept going she's gonna pray, she's gonna fast.
He thought I would go into a cave and fast and pray for 3 weeks, then come out with an answer.
I was just giving her space, man. Right? So finished that, we walked out really happy. Immediately, right, Chris and Gladys were sitting out there in the office. Immediately she tells Gladys, she tells all her friends. They're all so happy for her, right? Pastor Carissa is texting Caris, what happened, blah, 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 right? And then Pastor Jeremy texts me, right? We already reached evening service. It's 5:30. We finished worship. I'm sitting down there and Pastor Jeremy texts me. He's like, hey, so how did the convo go? I said, yeah, it went well. She said she'll think about it. She'll pray about it, right? Then he's like, oh, great. Then after a while, he texts me again. He was like, hey, I just want to check, just want to be clear on this. She said she's going to pray? Are you sure she said she's going to pray? Or did she say yes already? Right? I was like, I'm not sure. I told her to go and pray about it. So so I text her and hey, you're going to pray about it, right? She's like, no, I said yes already.
I forgot this happened.
And this is why you invite your leaders into your life, okay? Because they help you to smooth things out and make sure that like you actually enter into a relationship well. And actually what that speaks about is what Carrie's just shared. Actually, it's about your heart. Is your heart postured towards God to say, God, I surrender, and I'm willing to invite counsel into my life so that I can do what's best in my life, right? For your glory, right?